Let me start this video by emphasising the fact that I am wearing clothes. They just may not be visible sometimes. You may be able to hear children screaming, flies buzzing, birds tweeting. That's right, another heatwave. Another heatwave. Seems like every time I film a video, it's in a heatwave. So that's just how it's going to be. We're just going to roll with it. We've got a lot to say today. We've got a lot of exciting stuff to do today. Let's get on with it. Hello, this is probably going to be quite a big bad boy video. So you might want to get yourself settled, get yourself in bed, do this, watch this while you're doing something else, just because I don't know how long it's going to be. I'm unpredictable these days, because I'm going to be waffling all things Netflix's The Sandman. Whee! The show dropped last Friday. It is currently the next Thursday, and I finished the show on Tuesday because I have an awful attention span, so I can't binge watch. For those who don't know who I am, you just saw Sandman in the title and you've clicked. Hi, welcome. My name's Izzy. I make videos about TV, both here and on my TikTok. I'm just trying to get a bit more into TikTok. I've been left it adrift for a while, but I'm an actor and I'm also an avid Sandman fan. I've read the first 10 core volumes of the Sandman, so from Preludes to The Wake. I've also read Endless Night. Basically what I'm saying is I went into the Netflix show being someone who'd already read the comics. This video is going to be a general review of the whole of series 1 of The Sandman, but what I'm going to be doing is talking about it episode by episode. So if you want to hear me talk about specific episodes, skip certain ones, everything is timestamped, so you can just click it's either like on an arrow down here or at the side, it changes. And skip 20 episodes, or you can skip to the end when I'll be just talking generally about it. Also, I will be putting up a separate video specifically talking about the acting and my favourite acting performances as a dreaming young baby actor who just fucking admires people so much. That's going to be a separate video, so specifically delving into acting a bit more in a separate video, but this is just a mishmash of my first review. This video will contain spoilers, and this isn't my usual skirting around. I'm talking character deaths, explicit cliffhangers spoiled, so I'll give you a chance to head off now. I'll have a little sip of water while you are leaving us if you don't want to hear any spoilers. If I keep looking down here, all my notes are on my iPad. What I did was I kept notes as I watched, so that's why I might be kind of connecting the dots a bit in this video. I haven't written a script for it or anything. I'm just going through what I wrote, but we're going to go through episode by episode and consolidate at the very end, but to not keep you going, what did you actually think of it for the full thing? I really enjoyed it. This is a very positive review, and while it is a positive review, and obviously I'm a massive Sandman fan and I went into it as a Sandman fan, I am going to be honest, there's pros and there's cons that I'm going to talk about, so it's not just going to be me going yeah for however long the video is. This is how long the video is. Okay, so do bear with me as I read through my notes, but here beginneth the review. Here are my thoughts. We're going to start with my first day of watching, so we're starting with Sleep of the Just, chapter 1, because they are chapters. Now, I must clarify, this for me, on my first day of watching when the series dropped, so Friday, this was a rewatch. Why are you thinking? Why is this possible? I went to the virtual premiere screening on the previous Wednesday. I dressed up, here's a picture of me. I was like, you know what, I've got friends who are at the actual premiere, I want to dress up. I had a bottle of wine. It was a very emotional time, and I watched on my iPad, which I will talk about a bit more later. Wasn't the way to do it, I don't think. So I watched just Sleep of the Just on that Wednesday and rewatched it on the Friday. I'm going to talk about my 3 favourite things, just so this isn't really long. But I will go into detail about those. So my number 1 that I've got written down is Tom's performance through his eyes alone. Now, I'm going to gush about this man so much, but he is absolutely phenomenal. He had so few lines in that first episode, and he just brought us in to Morpheus's world. I think specifically I'm talking about that first shot, you know, the one where he's on his arm and he looked up and you could just see his eyes. That was exceptional. The way that he used his eyes in, here's your first big spoiler, Jessamy's death. I'm still really emotional, but I don't want to cry. But when Jessamy got shot, here's a picture of me, or a video maybe, I don't remember what I took, from the premiere, and I cried the second time as well. This was a shock. to say the least, but Tom did the most in the best possible way from inside that glass with his eyes. Seeing the Dream Lord cry is a rarity, and oh my god. Another favourite moment of Tom's performance was on the beach. Is it a beach? I think lovely Swirly, who gets mentioned in every video, I think Swirly describes it as a beach, so I'm going to call it that. When Morpheus was lying on the ground and Lucienne like legged it over and he went, Lucienne! I just wrecked it, but I sobbed at that the second time as well. Tom is amazing, and I will talk about him more in the video specifically about the performances, but Jesus God, he's, oh my gosh. My second favourite thing, which I recorded like a video immediately after watching it the first time and sent it to my friend, so I'll see if I can put it in here. Okay, I'm still like kind of crying, I'm sorry, it's not that sad. I think everything's just hit me at once because I've had like, that, it's not even that much! I've had some of the wine. Alright, it's got the exact same pacing that the comic does, and that was the bit that really struck me. Like it's, yeah, it's really odd. It's really odd. It's the comic on screen. So as you just heard was the pacing. Now, I was in shock. Like, I knew it would be close to the comic, but it was the pacing moved exactly the same as the comic, despite bits being added, despite bits being taken away. It just progressed the exact, like, I can't really describe it other than that. Like, I don't really have the words. I was just like, oh yeah, the beat, then this beat, then this beat, perfect. This is Sleep of the Just. I think I say in that video, like, it is the comic, however drunk I am. I go, it is the comic, because it is. They've added bits, they've taken bits away, and still, it is Sleep of the Just. I was in shock. My third favourite thing from this episode, I could talk about each of these episodes for years, was Lucienne, as I just did. Not just like that Lucienne moment, but the Lucienne's character generally. Vivian Achiampong fucking nailed it out again. I will talk about her in my performances video, but her little run and just the way that she, forgive me my lord, the dreaming is not as you left it, like the way she delivered her lines, amazing. And I will talk a bit more about how they use Lucienne throughout all of these episodes because I think it was brilliant. My score for Sleep of the Just is 9 out of 10, and on the first watch I think I was between giving it an 8.5 and a 9 out of 10. For the ones that I haven't given a 10, I'm going to say why didn't I give it a 10, and for this one it's just, it's the start. I wouldn't give the comic version of Sleep of the Just a 10 either. Like, I couldn't say no more than that. It's just the plot that it is, and that's all I can say on Sleep of the Just. Episode 2, Imperfect Hosts. Now this was the short one, which I think Neil explained, was it on Tumblr or was it in a Q&A? I don't remember, there's been a lot of interviews going on at the moment, but Neil Gaiman explained that the reason this one was shorter is because they cut the first 5 minutes of Imperfect Host and whacked it onto the end of Sleep of the Just when they cut material from Sleep of the Just in the first screenings, in the test screenings to audiences. Super interesting. My 3 favourite things from this episode were the gargoyles. Are you fucking kidding me? Oh my god. Gregory was on that screen for like, what, 10 seconds immediately. The way that, because they used puppetry and they used CGI on top of that, the way that the puppeteer and the CGI and the VFX artists managed to characterise that gargoyle was absolutely sublime. The way that they gave it like the dog like characteristics when it was bumping the ball about with its nose, and when he pushed it to Morpheus, but Morpheus didn't want to play with the ball. Morpheus wanted to kill Gregory. Anyway, yeah, I cried at nearly every episode. I will talk about the episode I didn't cry in, but here's a picture of me with Gregory from this episode. I was heartbroken. I was like, why are they doing this? First Jessamine, now Gregory, who's next? But luckily, from new life sprung Goldie, little Goldie in the egg, who was absolutely adorable as well. Another favourite thing from this episode was I've written Ethel Slay, Ethel Cripps. The characterisation of Ethel Cripps by, like, just the whole shebang of it, this art, dealer who meeting with the Corinthian, and she got that Corinthian out of her flat. She's like, I'm not doing this. Yeah, I really liked having her a bit more at the forefront of the story. It was a nice way to do it. And my other favourite thing from this episode was the fates. Now, the imagery of the fates, as if anyone's like read up to the Wake of the Sandman knows, they become extremely, extremely important in various forms, and the way that they've built the imagery of the three and of the Mother Maiden and the Cronin is stunning. The sequence with them where they flipped between each one, they were speaking like, I don't want to embarrass myself, but bits where they were like, my camera's like, what are you doing? Directly to camera, and it would flip between them, but then it would flip between all three of, stop it. It would flip between all three of them. I thought that was absolutely excellent, and that like definitely was a standout moment of that episode for me. I've given Imperfect Host a score of 8 out of 10, and again, why wouldn't I give it a 10? The same reason as with Sleep of the Just, like I wouldn't give the comic version of Imperfect Host a 10 either. Also, I kind of like struggled to remember what had happened in that and what had happened in Sleep of the Just and what had happened in Dream a Little Dream. They all kind of merged together, but this could have fully been my fault for watching them all, like watching too many at once. That's kind of on me. I might rate it a lot higher on my rewatch. Episode 3, Dream a Little Dream of Me, was my last episode of this first day of watching. My 3 favourite things from this were, I was going to say one word, Matthew the Raven. 3 words, Matthew the Raven. For those who don't know, I adore Matthew. Matthew is a sublime character. I'm getting a tattoo of Matthew. I love him that much. And the introduction of him in this episode, I kind of forgot he'd be showing up. I don't know why. I was like, when's Matthew gonna get here? But it didn't really ever cross my mind that he'd just rock up. There he was, and he injected a little bit of humour, which in a story as dark as the Sandman, and especially with the story of Dream a Little Dream of Me, we kind of needed that little bit of humour and the little bit of bantering. I put that very much in, what's this? These things, for the purpose of, can you banter with Dream of the Endless? He was not into it. He was like, you go back to Lucien and be like, we're not doing this. And Matthew was like, are you having a laugh, bro? Yeah, I was obsessed. And the real ravens, they used real ravens. They used CGI obviously as well and puppets, but I think they revealed on Netflix Geeks Twitter that the raven was called Mr. T, which sent me flying, and I want to weep. Second favourite thing from this episode, David motherfucking Thewlis. Oh my god, again, I will not talk too much about performance here because David Thewlis is a big part of the video on performances, but he came on that screen and I think I described him as like magnetising to someone. I was like, I cannot take my eyes off you. You are a ridiculous actor in the best possible way. I mean that. He was so good. And my third favourite part of this episode, it's a Matthew line again, but fuck it, let's go to hell. Whatever writer, whoever I did that, you are a genius. Beautiful, beautiful line. What's that video?
Beautiful piece of television.
You'll notice I didn't really talk a lot about that episode. I'm rating that a 7 out of 10. Now, you've got to bear with me here because I know that this episode is a lot of people's favourite. And I know that a lot of people really, really loved it. So please bear with me, don't be angry, don't comment angry things. Why I didn't give it a 10 was, honestly, I found it quite boring. And I hate using that word, I really do. Despite like the fun demon action in the church, something about it I didn't connect with. And I can't put my finger on what it is. I think I'm gonna have to rewatch this one soon because I could not work out what it was. This episode was very different to the comic, but that's not me complaining about that because I'm not really like an avid fan of that issue of the comic either, so like I don't know what I would have wanted here, but for me I didn't connect with it as much as I did the others. But I know I have episodes that I love that people would probably rank near the bottom of their favourites, so this is to do with me, very much to do with me. I think I was tired and I'd watched too many. I reverted to watching 2 when I got to Doll's House, and I think that worked a lot better. I think this was on me for overloading myself. On to my second day of watching, we're kicking off with A Hope in Hell. And whoa, did this reignite any kind of doubt that I had after Dream a Little Dream? This immediately went away. My 3 favourite things, oh sorry, I'm getting a lot of emails right now. My 3 favourite things in this, Gwen's performance, again, not going to talk too much about performance, but Jesus Christ, Lucifer, you can step on me. She was exceptional. She commanded every inch of that screen. Even like her and Tom obviously together were fucking dynamite, but when she was on that screen, could not take my eyes off her. I was like, you are Lucifer, and I do not want to hear a single complaint on Twitter again about this because you were so good. My second favourite thing from this was the oldest game. Now. I did not at all expect them to do it like they did it, and you can see how much I'm smiling and I can't even talk. It was so good. The fact that they bought Lucifer doing the game, like, it was a genius move having Gwen and Tom fighting. And again, the thing that I loved, the thing they did with the Fates, with the shots that were like directly confronting, I really loved those shots. I will put the name of the director of that episode here because genius work, like genius. The special effects in that bit with the butcher bacterium and Tom like dying and the scratches on Lucifer's face, very good scene, like up there with my favourite scenes in the full series. And my third favourite bit of this episode were the bits between Rosemary and John D in the car. Now again, this is a performance based thing, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but like the contrast between that and the hell scenes, this episode worked so well. Like these storylines were weaving between each other and highlighting bits from one another, and Rosemary had a dog in the car, which winner for me. Obviously I'm gonna get 10 out of 10 just for the dog, spoiler, but genuinely the performances in this episode were particularly sublime and elevated, and chef's kiss. I've written exquisite love is what I've written, and A Hope in Hell gets 10 out of 10 from me, so I have no reason to say why didn't I give it a 10. It was beautiful. I then went and had a break because I knew what was coming next, and then I watched 24/7. Well, I've got thoughts on this. If you watched my, was it in the things I'm excited to see SANDMAN video, or maybe it was my favourite issues, like SANDMAN is my favourite. Bro, you'll know 24 Hours is one of my favourite issues, so I had high hopes for this. So let's talk about my 3 favourite things from this episode. Number 1, the phenomenal pacing. Now, this I could only say at the end of the episode. When I talk about like the series as a whole and things I was a bit iffy on, I'll talk about what I mean by this, but only could I say after finishing the episode that it had like the perfect pacing, and the way it was laid out was spectacular. The Guardian called it the best hour of television in 2022, which I can very much see. The moment between Dream and John D at the very end, where Dream kind of said like, no, this is the dream life, or whatever. I don't really remember what he said. I cried. I didn't mention the episode I didn't cry in was Dream a Little Dream. You can probably tell from my less than favourable review. I did really like it though, so. But yeah, that moment between Dream and D was sublime. I wept. I really wept. That's kind of when it all hit me, like the whole backlog of the episode really got to me. And my third favourite thing in this episode was the lighting. It was absolutely spectacular. The way that they used kind of the red glow, it was subtle, but it was perfect. The red glow whenever the ruby was influencing, so you kind of knew when it was someone's true self, someone's dream self. That was very well done. I have given 24/7 a 10 out of 10. Oh, you might see a running theme coming on with the rest of the episodes in the series here when it comes to the rating, but cheers to that. I will talk a bit more about 24/7 when I talk about the series as a whole. My last episode of my second day of watching was The Sound of Her Wings, and like I feel like I don't even need to say, if you've been on social media you will know this is the fan favourite episode, and it is so clear to see why it is. It is a spectacular hour of TV, and it's just what you need after 24/7. I've put 3 favourite things from this, but there's 4 written down. I liked it that much, clearly. But my 3 favourite things from this: Kirby is absolutely perfect as death. Like, is there any more I can say on that? I feel like everyone knows. You can just tell the smile, the mannerism. the kindness and softness in her face, but like the harshness and the truthfulness she gives to Dream, gorgeous. I will talk about her more in my performances video, I promise. Second favourite thing from this was the music. David Buckley really nailed it. I'm talking, I think, like the whole episode great, but specifically the first half hour, the Sound of Her Wings section, I didn't stop crying basically from the violin onwards. Is the Sound of Her Wings kidding me right now? This is not fair. Like for the full episode, not just the Sound of Her Wings bit, but the music was a massive part to play in that. And David Buckley, who composed the music, did an absolutely exceptional job of scoring this episode. My third favourite, I was gonna say video, my third favourite thing, the humour in this episode. Like I said, it was just what we needed after 24/7. And like the baguette being thrown, I know in my things I was looking forward to in Sandman, I was like, I'm really excited for the bip. It wasn't so much of a bip as it was like a clutch, but it was brilliant. And just Death giving the humour that we needed, and Hob giving the humour that we needed. Camp little scenes, very, very, very well done. And here's my fourth, because I clearly couldn't stick to three, but the way that they got, I've said around Dream being trapped in 1989. Now, he obviously was trapped and they didn't get around it because Hob and Dream didn't meet that year. But as we see, Hob goes into the pub and we see him all by himself, and this made me so sad. But the ending that they added with the new in, I was obsessed. Men of Good Fortune, I know, is like a real fan favourite issue, but it's never been like near the top of my favourite issues, but this really like made me fall in love with it. It was, Ferdinand Kingsley was spectacular, it was camp, it was brilliant, and it's doing very well on Tumblr. Hob Murphy is the ship name, for anyone wondering, but it's doing spectacularly, and obviously I've given The Sound of Her Wings 10 out of 10, like why would I do? Also, oh, I've just seen this written down. It had my favourite scene ever at the end with Desire summoning Despair. I don't even mean favourite scene, but one of my favourite panels from the whole of the Sandman is when Desire kisses Dream's helm, or like the sigil, and it's like, big brother, I'm watching you. I love that bit. But that little like section, I adore it. Just to sum up kind of the end of the Preludes and Nocturnes arc, I'll read what I've written. The way that they've handled the development and the introduction of the characters is very, very well done. It is, like, it's a difficult thing to do coming into the show saying we need to do all this exposition, and they did it very tenderly and brilliantly. The Corinthian is still a lingering threat, and from the additional Desire appearances, plus the mention of them being in high spirits in the family dinner, we know they're immediately trouble. Yeah, this is one thing that I really, really admired, was the handling of the villains in the series. I thought the Corinthian and Desire, like, can you call Desire a villain? I feel like you probably can, but you know they're trouble and you know they're always going to be a threat even when you don't see them. Very well handled. Okay, on to my third day of watching. I really did spread this out, and we're now on the Doll's House arc. I will say, for, what's the word? I don't know what word, like anti-bias is what I'm trying to say, for transparency's sake, Doll's House is like my second favourite volume of the Sandman. I really, really love the story. So I think I was always going to think of it more favourably than the Preludes episodes, just because I prefer the story, and I can't really do anything about that. But we're starting with the titular, The Doll's House, and again I've got three favourite things from this episode. But to start with, I've just written the vibes were immaculate. This was camp. It really was. In terms of like my three favourite specific things, in capital letters I've written Desire and Despair are perfect, and Desire did the hook. Now, the Endless, I love the Endless. They can do no wrong. I mean, they can obviously do wrong. Jesus, they can do wrong. We found that out. But in my eyes, they can do no wrong. And the complement of Desire and Despair, the twins together, was so good. Donna Preston had so few lines, but she has completely managed to, like, I was gonna say hook me, but that's cringe. And the reason I wrote Desire did the hook is because literally like 2 days before, if you don't know, the Sandman had a lot of people whining before it even dropped about they're not gonna do this, I know, because it's woke. Shut the fuck up. But I saw someone moaning that they were like, there's no way that they're even gonna do Despair's oh, did I say desire? I meant despair if I said desire. I've written desire, sorry. There's no way that they're going to do despair doing the self-harm, doing the hook. You had to wait 2 days to see that they actually did do it, and it was very well done. You know, the smile that she had on her face and then turning into like the complete look of horror in her eyes. Donna Preston, you will always be famous. So good. The introduction of the collectors, my second favourite thing. Yes, collectors, as we know, it's kind of like not really a self-contained issue in the volumes, what am I saying, in the graphic novels, but it's like storyline wise in terms of those characters, it kind of is like the Good Doctor and Nimrod and Funland only appear in the issue before Collectors and Collectors, I think. Sorry, it's been like a while since I read it, but having them introduced that early on and having their relationship with the Corinthian established, superb, no fault with that. And my third favourite thing, I've just put the overall tone of the episode. I think I just prefer the more human, I say human ones. Dream's still dicking about, being happy, doing whatever, like, when I say human ones, I mean that very loosely. I think I just prefer the Doll's House is what I mean in terms of story, and there's no fault to Preludes for that. They're superb episodes, but if I prefer the story, then I'm going to prefer the episode. So obviously I've given Doll's House 10 out of 10. I then watched Playing House, and I was like, did I watch this on the same day? I did, I just watched it in bed, so I was like, when did I watch this? But my three favourite things from this was how Jed's dreams were flipped from being Hector's in the comic. If you haven't read the comics, you might be like, what the fuck are you talking about? Because it was very well done, so you wouldn't have known. But Hector Hall, Leiter's husband, he originally had this whole other storyline in the comics. I won't get into it because it's a bit baffling. But he was the other Sandman. Do you know when like Jed says, I'm the Sandman? Tom goes, you're the Sandman, are you? Whatever. Why did I do that voice? He says that was originally Hector, and he was doing this horrible thing to Leiter in dreams, which is how she got pregnant. Obviously that completely changed, which I really, really liked. I really did like that. And how they kept the like cringy superhero stuff and put it in a child's dream. Brilliant, especially as an escapist thing. And the addition of Galt in that sense, very, very good. I loved Galt. I really loved Galt. My second favourite thing, I've just written Corinthian. He's so fucking good. What else can I say on that? Like, we know that. Oh, and the third thing I've got is the tension between Lucien and Morpheus. This was really interesting when they had them, it's not scrapping, but kind of scrapping. Lucien trying to explain rationally that someone had to take charge while Dream was gone, being locked in a fucking fishbowl. Dream being like, no, me, I'm in charge, being a piss baby, essentially. Oh, sorry, I just choked to death if I've cut that out. That was a super interesting dynamic to add, and the two actors between them, Viv and Tom, tense, beefy. Playing House, I've given it, surprise, 10 out of 10, just because again I really like the vibe of it. We then move on to the little era where the Sandman watchers broke Netflix, and we couldn't actually watch Sandman for a bit because too many people were trying to watch it. Wasn't that fun, so I only watched one episode on my next day of watching, and that was Collectors, which is a fan favourite issue from the comics for so many people. It's never really been on my radar that much. That has now completely changed. I've just written insane next to it. The music in Collectors was a serve. I'm thinking especially like the hillbilly like rock stuff that they use when they're all entering the convention. That was super. I love the camp energy of the Doll's House arc. I thought it was brilliant. I've then written Gilbert a king for real. That was my second favourite thing. Gilbert is a king. Stephen Fry nailed the character of Gilbert. And my third favourite thing, I've just put just the plot and the supporting cast, and oh, chef's kiss. Really good review, is he? But the supporting cast in this episode were particularly good. I think my favourite bit was when Gilbert was like, was he trying to find Jed? And yeah, and he was going between the rooms, and they had like the different panels, the women in collecting and religion in collecting, and Gilbert just kind of being like, what? Eventually, that was a spectacular bit. And the brilliant supporting cast in this episode playing the collectors, smashed that. Like, it was very much down to them as it was down to the main players of the episode. I've given Collectors, shock, a 10 out of 10. And my final day of watching, when Netflix decided to work again, we've got Lost Hearts. And my 3 favourite bits of this episode were, I've just got in capital letters, the hair pull. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I mean the bit right near the end where Dream visits Desire's threshold and yanks them back by their hair. I then got Fiddler's Green with a sad face. Again, I've got a video of this. Video of me. I just put my makeup on. No. Oh shit. Emotional, beautifully done. The special effects and the VFX and the CGI. I don't know the proper terms for it, I'm really sorry, but the way that Gilbert sprouted back to Fiddler's Green was gorgeous. And also, for my 3rd favourite thing, the sick bit where the dreams all got pulled into Rose. Sick, that's all I have to say on that. That was very cool. The way that, you know, you could clearly see that Rose as the vortex was bringing everybody in. Very clear, which I think is something that maybe the Doll's House comic version does sometimes lack, is plot clarity, and they cleared bits up for this. They improved it, which I can commend them for. Obviously in this case I gave Lost Hearts a 10 out of 10. And I know from looking at reviews, and especially on IMDb, the Doll's House episodes have the lower ratings, and I'm like, no, not in my world, clearly. So if you don't agree with me here, like, you probably won't agree with me here, that you probably preferred the Preludes episodes, that's fine. They made 10 episodes so that everyone could have a different favourite one. I'm now going to talk about like the series as a whole, and just I kind of wrote bits that impressed me and bits that I was unsure of as I went through. I will have already talked about some of these, so I'll skip over them, and I'll try and keep this snappy because I don't want to waffle for too long. But first I'll obviously talk about the bits that I've put impressed, so I'll go down my list. I've got the visuals as a whole. Like, obviously people were like, this looks fucking awful on the trailers, and I was like, I don't see that, I'll be honest with you, I think it looks brilliant. And after watching the series, I completely agree. The CGI was gorgeous. There's a particular scene in Imperfect Host where Morpheus goes down to the pool. That was beautiful. Sorry, I said pool, by the way, that's my accent if you can't understand that. And also the bit where Fiddler's Green came back, that was beautiful. The visuals, gorgeous. The super villain that is the Corinthian I've written, I talked a bit about this, but the villainy, the way the villainy was introduced and the way the villainy was maintained throughout the series was brilliant. The Ravens, obviously, the Ravens have my heart, I've talked about that. The immediate love that was built for Gregory, again, down to the brilliant people who were behind the gargoyles. Lucienne's involvement, this I will talk about a bit more. The way that they kept Lucienne as a thread and as a connecting thing between like Matthew and the waking world, and Merv when he was introduced, and Dream and the dreaming and the library. Lucienne kind of being this really strong centerpin of the entire thing. She just, I don't really get the same vibe from like comic Lucienne. Maybe I just need to reread, but like Lucienne feels a lot more involved, and I think that's a really clever decision to do that. Tom is Dream, I've written, like, yes, Tom is Dream, correct. I've then just written David Thewlis. I think we all know what I mean by that. And The Oldest Game, which I've talked about. From The Doll's House, I've then got the switch in vibe. They immediately got the focus off Morpheus and settled him into the repaired dreaming. This was good. So obviously so much of the Preludes arc is Morpheus on his quest, and then, oh, Morpheus, oh, I haven't got a quest anymore, I'm really sad, I'm gonna get hit by bread by my sister, and I look like shit for the majority of it. What they then did in The Doll's House is they gave him fluffier hair and rosier skin, and he looked settled, and the dreaming looked settled, and it kind of made you go, okay, he's okay now, he's a lot more fine now, who's Rose Walker? Very well done, very well done. Again, I've written, I love how Lucienne is the constant between the two stories, because she is brilliant. Seeing Hal perform this would have been a missed opportunity if they got John Cameron Mitchell in and didn't have Hal performing, but thank God they did, because that was so good and a welcome addition. Because obviously in a comic you can't have fucking Hal singing "Everything's Coming Up Roses" for 3 pages. That'd be boring as. But on the screen, utilising your medium, brilliant. I've got Leiter and Hector killed me off. I cannot fault any change made narratively in this arc. I'll be real, minus maybe a small one, which I'll talk about later. But yeah, that Leiter and Hector was so emotional. I'm really glad they did what they did with Leiter, because I think when you get to later issues, if you haven't read the comics, I'm talking about the kindly ones specifically, your feelings for Leiter may be more favourable. I wonder how it's going to change how the kindly one doesn't need to be more emotional. But the final thing I've got is I thank them for adjusting the storylines that involve sexual assault, especially with Funland, who is one of the collectors, and Rose, because if you haven't read the comics, there is quite a graphic scene between Funland and Rose that they managed to get rid of very well here. And also something that I'll talk about in the things I was unsure of is the way that they dealt with the Unity story more. Okay, here's the big boy, the things I'm unsure of, the things that would, you know, give it a 9 out of a 10 or a 4.5 out of a 5 or whatever. They're little things, I'll be real. So I've got the big changes made in Dream a Little Dream, but also I completely get why they did it. I've talked about that a bit as well. Like, I can't pin down why I didn't really like it any more than that. So the CGI in episode 1, but I found it a lot more understandable when I had it on the bigger screen. Now, I briefly glossed over this earlier when I watched it on my iPad at the premiere, and I was like, oh, the aspect ratio's a bit freaky for my eyes. The minute I got it on the TV, I was a lot more settled with it. There have been moans about the aspect ratio, and there was an article published where they were like, this was deliberate, by the way, this isn't a mistake. They had to clarify that. But it does look a lot better on a bigger screen. So if you've been watching on your phone or on an iPad or on a tablet and you're like, oh, I'm not sure about this, I would really recommend getting it on a bigger screen if you can, because it really helps. I obviously wrote in episode 3, I'm unsure how I feel about Joanna. That's all I had to say on that. Oh, this is what I was on about with the pacing of 24 hours. So the paring back of the horrible stuff in 24 hours until quite a bit of the way into the episode. However, when you then get to the penultimate bit with the Fates imagery, I was like, oh no, this makes sense. This is what I said about, like, I couldn't make a analysis on the pacing of the episode until the very end of it, because the end made you go, oh, this is why they've kept the really nasty stuff back until now, because you're analysing these humans more when you see them on the screen and you've got time to spend with them. In the comic, they had to get it done in that format over a certain amount of pages. This time they had more time to play with, and I think it really worked in their advantage, to their advantage. Right, here I think I missed something. In fact, I know I missed something because my dad was talking and I couldn't hear it. But why are Rose and Jed Unity's great grandchildren? I did go back and double check that in the comic they are her grandchildren. Miranda is Unity's daughter, but there's another layer of separation here, and I think that may be to do with the sexual assault plot lines I was talking of and giving it a degree of separation, in which case that makes sense. But I was just a bit like, what? Whenever someone said, like, you're her great grandchild, I was like, are you? I didn't hear is the issue there. It's nothing to do with them. And my final, like, gripe, it's not a gripe, is it? But I wish we'd had more of Hal / Barbie / Ken / Chantal / Zelda's dreams. I know there are only short sections in the graphic novel, but from what I remember of the Doll's House, they make up a slightly larger chunk of the narrative. Plus, I really wish we got the iconic scene of Rose falling away and Dream chasing her through dreams. Obviously, multiple people will be like, I wish they did this. This is one of my favourite bits. I wish they did this. And ultimately, an adaptation is never going to please everyone with every little thing, clearly, because that's impossible. But I do wish we got a little bit more, maybe even just to set it up slightly more for a game of you, because we've only seen tiny bits of Martin Tenbones and Barbie, but like, it is a little bit in the comic. It just felt very condensed. I don't know why. Also, I appreciate the budget that those bits must have taken. So and especially filming during COVID when they were restricted with location, a lot of CGI would have had to be used. So I'm not going to fight them or anything for it. I'm just like, I wish personally I would have got to have seen this. there we have it, my review of the Sandman. I think if I had to give it classic review style, like star rating / out of 10 rating, I would give it 9 out of 10, which would equate to 4.5 out of 5 stars. I'm not good at maths. Yeah, it would. So I really liked it. Basically, it really impressed me, and it was worth the wait. Thank God. If it was shook, I would have been so unimpressed. Like I said, I do have a video coming up more specifically about the performances and kind of like why I connected with them as an actor. Like, that sounds really wanky, I'm so sorry, but like specifically from an acting point of view, what I admired and what I was like, oh, I wish I could do that. I know that just sounds very wanky, but yeah, I thought that would be a unique spin on it, maybe. I don't know. Apologies if I was a bit rambly, a bit nonsensical. I really tried to consolidate my feelings this time, and I think I did okay compared to my other videos, but I'm finding out maybe I'm not great at big and long videos, but we've done it now and people wanted to hear what I thought, so that's what I thought. Whoa! There's been whispers about season 2. I wish those whispers would hurry up and morph into some news. Thanks for watching my ramblings. I'm sorry I looked like an egg. That's what I'm trying to say. Like 30 degrees, what can I do? But this has taken me like an hour to film. Oh God, I'm so waffly. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you enjoyed Sandman, if you've seen it, and if you haven't, go and watch it. But also, you've just had a load spoiled.